Neurodevelopmental Disorders Explained. Hi everyone, welcome to episode 1 of our DSM-5 TR series. I'm Psychotherapy Cynthia, and today we're focusing on neurodevelopmental disorders, a group of conditions that usually appear early in development and affect personal, social, academic, or occupational functioning. In this episode, we'll walk through the main diagnostic categories in this chapter: intellectual developmental disorders, communication disorders, autism spectrum disorder, ADHD, specific learning disorder, motor disorders, and the residual other neurodevelopmental disorders. As you listen, think about clients on your caseload whose difficulties began in childhood and have been fairly stable over time. Intellectual developmental disorder involves deficits in intellectual functioning and adaptive functioning, starting in the developmental period and leading to impairments in independence and responsibility. Rule-outs include neurocognitive disorders, learning disorders, and issues driven primarily by environmental deprivation, as well as differentiating from borderline intellectual functioning. Communication disorders cover language disorder, speech-sound disorder, childhood-onset fluency disorder, and social pragmatic communication disorder, all centering on persistent problems with language form, content, or use that interfere with communication. Important rule-outs include hearing impairment, neurological conditions, autism spectrum disorder, and language differences due to bilingual environments or limited exposure. Autism spectrum disorder is characterized by persistent deficits in social communication and interaction, alongside restricted, repetitive patterns of behavior, interests, or activities with onset in early development. Rule-outs include intellectual developmental disorder without the characteristic social communication profile, social anxiety disorder, and normal variation in social interest. And you must consider co-occurrence rather than forced either-or decisions. ADHD involves a persistent pattern of inattention and/or hyperactivity impulsivity that interferes with functioning or development across at least 2 settings, such as home and school. Rule-outs include anxiety disorders, mood disorders, trauma-related hypervigilance, and normal high activity in young children. And you must verify that symptoms were present before adolescence and not solely explained by situational stressors. Specific learning disorder involves persistent difficulties in reading, writing, or mathematics that are substantially below what's expected for age, begin during school years, and are not better accounted for by intellectual disability, uncorrected sensory problems, or lack of instruction. Clinically, rule out inadequate schooling, language barriers, and neurologic disorders, and look for a pattern of academic underperformance despite appropriate support. Motor disorders include developmental coordination disorder, stereotypic movement disorder, and tic disorders such as Tourette's, with core features of clumsiness. Repetitive non-functional movements or motor and vocal tics. Rule-outs include neurological disorders like cerebral palsy, seizures, substance-induced movements, and medication-induced tics, which are handled elsewhere in the manual. Finally, other specified and unspecified neurodevelopmental disorders are used when the clinical picture is clearly neurodevelopmental but does not fully meet criteria for a specific diagnosis, often because of limited information or atypical presentations. For fieldwork, use these cautiously, thinking of them as placeholders that require ongoing assessment rather than final labels. As you think about your own clients, which neurodevelopmental category do you find hardest to distinguish from trauma or environmental factors? And what cues would you look for in fieldwork to tease them apart?